All right, this video is a continuation of the series on looking at old management thinking, theory, whatever you want to call it, versus new thinking. And as I was going through some of the things I could do with this, I tried to pick out the ones that probably affect people most, or ones that I am involved with most with organizations or executives. And from that, I've mentioned this book before, but Deming's Profound Changes, which I'll put a link to where you can purchase it. If you want to go deeper, you get a lot of depth here in understanding what those differences are. But Frederick Taylor, which is kind of the old thinking from 1911 and before, everything was done through management, and there was this separation of planning and doing that happened with Frederick Taylor. Now, we talked in terms of the one best way of doing things and the playlist, and that expertise really came from outside of the work processes. So, in other words, you had management over here doing kind of the thinking about the work, and then coming up with the way that the worker would do the process. So things, as they got pulled away, separated the planning versus the doing. This is very prevalent today. I mean, management makes the decisions, the workers do the work. And that's probably 80 to 90% of all organizations. But with Taylor, he also had very specialized management roles. As a matter of fact, he had multiple functions for what he called functional foremen. And the role of these was really almost even taking like a supervisor role today and giving individual things. Now, you might see that in some organizations do people management versus, skill management or something to that effect. And so we keep seeming to pull back into this Tayloristic type of mindset where, we keep breaking down the work. But I am going to talk about that actually in the video after this, of the functional separation of work versus looking at a system. But in this video, continue down this path, there's this separation of not only planning and doing, but of working and learning. So all the learning was being done by management while the worker just did the work. This changed with W. Edwards Deming, and probably get a little bit more depth from Russell Ackoff on this subject. And Deming's thinking was that management had to understand the work processes. In other words, just telling a worker what to do without knowledge of the work processes wasn't a good idea, because there's intimate detail associated with doing work. And, we still hear today, obviously, that, management shouldn't, oh, you're in management, you should go here. And then the interchangeable way we conduct management. Oh, well, that guy we heard is a good manager over XYZ company. We bring him into our company, and he assumes, or she assumes, that everything's the same in those processes, and manages in that particular way, which could be better. No, usually not, but it could be in taking ideas from another organization. Depends on how you approach it. Now, Deming took the attitude that workers could improve their performance as they learned. And so the worker became very important, from the Deming philosophy standpoint. Now, with Ackoff, we had interactive type of planning. So as opposed to management doing everything, he would first propose doing interactive planning, which was to increase the number of people in the planning process, get people from different departments helping, another department with their planning. And what this does, as you could imagine, since I'm big on synthetic thinking, is it gives more understanding, more learning, more knowledge amongst the people outside of that particular area that's being planned for. Or it could even be strategic planning, to be honest with you. Now, you might say, well, how do you get so many people? Well, the strategic planners should be the facilitators, not the answer guy or gal. So that's the advantages of interactive types of planning where you've got people in there. Plus, the biggest thing I talk about in almost all videos is that you get better adoption when you've got participatory types of planning, because just like I said, management and this Tayloristic mindset of you do what I say and separating that planning from the doing, people just don't buy into that these days. Now, yeah, things have changed since 1911, at least I hope, but the management hasn't changed. So be aware of the fact that separation of planning and doing is very old thinking, and there are much better ways with regards to doing interactive types of planning. And again, these are things that I teach in my education program. The 95 method, which is kind of a furthering of this thinking, kind of puts into motion planning by virtue of making it very proactive and active. So, we've ever done a strategic plan in your organization, everybody, you get the management team together and a few specialists and experts, and they put the plan together and they get a big binder of thing, goes up on the bookshelf, and nobody ever touches it again. At least that's my experience with most strategic plans. But this is something that happens. The way that I do it with the 95 method is that you have, you get the ideas, you get some prioritization, you're running some experiments, you're learning, you are the people that are involved from throughout the organization become part of the planning process, because you need ideas not just from, the hierarchy or the management team, but you need it from people that do the work. They're all going to have different perspectives, and you're going to get a much broader amount of ideas. The diversity is going to give you new thinking, and especially if you know how to capitalize that, and that's in the innovation part of the education program. But you need, before all that happens, and this is why I built the synthetic thinking portion, giving you a method for synthetic thinking, going through the customer lens and the thinking lens, is you've got to understand the whole. You've got to get participants from the whole, so people can see the whole of the organization. Not now at the beginning, it's just you. I'm educating potentially as either a veteran, new, or aspiring executive. But in order to once you get an understanding of the whole, it'll help you develop your purpose for the organization. It'll help you with things like planning, because you have broader knowledge of the interaction of the parts in your organization. Now, one of the things I try to achieve throughout the education program and even through the planning processes is, we have this attitude about work. There's work, and then you go home, and then you do play, and when you're at home, you do some learning. You might do a little learning at work. You get inspiration from being, more at home, and you get your social from home. But, part of the system that I've built is to try to break down the differences between, so that when you're at work, you can get work, you get play, you get learning, you get inspiration, you get social interactions and things of that sort that will further the organization and its ability to not only do better planning, but have people that are bought in to what you're trying to accomplish with the organization. So that's what I wanted to cover this week. Please hit subscribe. If you haven't looked at the rest of the videos in this playlist series, please go to the old versus new management thinking and theory portion and look at the rest of the videos in the playlist. and hit the bell, and you'll be notified as I release new ones in this particular playlist.